Jiho stood at the viewing window of the transport ship and watched the Galactic Collegiate Institute grow larger. The massive station sparkled against the darkness of space like a jewel. It was shaped like a wheel, spinning slowly to create artificial gravity. He had read that the station held students from 40 different species. Today he and 3 other humans would become the first Terran exchange students in galactic history. "It's beautiful," Yoonji said, coming to stand beside him. Her eyes were wide with excitement. She had been talking non-stop since they left Earth 3 weeks ago. "Can you believe we're actually here? Real aliens." "Real Alien University," Daeho grunted from his seat. He was reading through the station manual on his datapad. "The gravity is set to 0.8 standard. That's lighter than Earth. Everything will feel lighter then," Hyejin said. She was checking her medical supplies for the 10th time. "We should be careful not to break anything." The transport ship docked with a gentle bump. Jiho picked up his bag and was surprised when it felt like it weighed almost nothing. On Earth, the bag was heavy. Here, he could lift it with one finger. The others noticed too. Yoonji giggled as she picked up her suitcase like it was made of air. The airlock opened with a hiss. A voice came through the speakers. "Welcome, Terran students. Please proceed to docking bay 7. Your orientation guide is waiting." They walked down the corridor. The walls were smooth and white, glowing with soft blue light. Jiho noticed that the handrails along the walls were very thin. They looked like they might bend if he leaned on them too hard. He made a mental note to be careful. Docking bay 7 was huge. The ceiling stretched high above them, at least 50 feet up. Strange beings moved through the space. Jiho saw a creature that looked like a floating crystal. Another being had 6 legs and fur that changed colors. A third alien was small and blue, barely reaching his knee. "Terrans," a voice called. They turned to see a tall, thin being approaching. It looked like it was made of purple glass. Its body reflected the light in rainbow patterns. "I am Professor Thalvix. Welcome to the Galactic Collegiate Institute. I will be your orientation guide." The professor's voice was musical, like wind chimes. It spoke through a device attached to its chest that translated the sounds into words they could understand. "Thank you, Professor," Jiho said. He bowed slightly, the way his grandmother had taught him. The professor's body flickered with what might have been surprise. "You are very polite. Come, we have much to cover." Professor Thalvix began walking. The humans followed. As they walked, other students stopped to stare. Some pointed. Others quickly moved away. "Is something wrong?" Yoonji asked. No, the professor said, but its voice sounded uncertain. "It is just that most students have never seen a Deathworlder before." "A what?" Hyejin asked. Professor Thalvix led them into a large room filled with curved benches. A dozen other students were already there. They all turned to look at the humans. Jiho heard gasps. One small alien that looked like a rabbit made of smoke actually fainted. "Please sit anywhere," the professor said. The humans found seats near the back. The bench creaked under Jiho's weight. He froze. The sound was loud in the quiet room. Daeho sat down next to him and the bench creaked again. They looked at each other with worried eyes. Professor Thalvix began the presentation. A hologram appeared in the air, showing different planets. The Galactic Collegiate Institute welcomes students from all peaceful species. We have many safety protocols to ensure everyone remains healthy and safe. The hologram showed Earth. It was blue and green and white, spinning slowly. Our Terran students come from a Class 12 Deathworld, the professor continued. This is the highest classification. Earth has extreme gravity at 1.8 standard. Its atmosphere is highly corrosive due to oxygen levels. The planet experiences violent weather patterns and is home to countless aggressive predators, the other students whispered among themselves. Jiho saw fear in many of their eyes. He felt uncomfortable. They were talking about Earth like it was a nightmare world. To him, Earth was just home. "What does Class 12 mean?" asked a student that looked like a jellyfish floating in a bubble of orange gas. "It means their planet is barely survivable," the professor said. "Most species would die within hours on Earth. The fact that these humans evolved there and thrive there is quite remarkable." Yoonji raised her hand. "Professor, Earth isn't that dangerous. It's actually very beautiful." The jellyfish student's bubble shivered. "You have predators that hunt you. The files say some Earth creatures can bite through bone." "Well, yes," Yoonji admitted. "But most animals leave you alone if you leave them alone." "Most?" squeaked a tiny voice. "Not all?" Daeho shrugged. Some are dangerous. You have to be careful. The room fell silent. The alien students stared at the humans like they had just admitted to fighting monsters every day, which Jiho supposed wasn't entirely wrong. He had once run away from a wild boar while hiking. His cousin had been chased by a bear. His grandmother had stories about tigers from when she was young. This is exactly why we have mandatory safety training for Deathworld species, Professor Thalvik said. You must understand that what is normal for you is lethal for others. The station has many rules to protect all students. We understand, Hyejin said gently. We'll be careful. The safety course begins tomorrow, the professor continued. It will teach you about the station's fragile systems and how to avoid damaging them or hurting other students. Jiho wanted to protest that they weren't dangerous, but he remembered the creaking bench. Maybe the professor had a point. After the orientation, the professor showed them to their dormitory. It was in a special section designed for high-gravity species. The furniture was reinforced. The beds were lowered to the ground. There was a warning label on the door that said, "Caution, Deathworld environment." Your rooms are here, Professor Thalvik said. Dinner is in 2 hours. Please be careful when moving through the station. Many of our structures are not built for your strength. After the professor left, the 4 humans gathered in the common room of their dormitory. Did you see how they looked at us? Unji said. Like we're monsters. We're not monsters, Hyejin said. We just need to be careful. Remember, we're the outsiders here. Jiho walked to the window. Outside, he could see other students walking through a park area filled with strange plants. They looked so delicate, so fragile. For the first time, he understood what it meant to be from a death world. Earth had made them strong. Maybe too strong for this peaceful place. We'll figure it out, he said. We just need to be gentle. Deho snorted. Gentle. Right. Like when I tried to shake that professor's hand earlier and it pulled away like I was going to crush it. They all laughed, but it was nervous laughter. They were ambassadors now, whether they wanted to be or not. The first humans in a galaxy that saw them as survivors from a nightmare world. Jiho hoped they wouldn't break anything important. The first week at the Galactic Collegiate Institute was full of surprises. Jiho learned that what he thought was normal was absolutely not normal to anyone else. It started in the chemistry lab on the 3rd day. Yunji had been assigned to work with Quilnix, the jellyfish-like student who floated in a bubble of methane gas. They were supposed to mix 2 compounds to create a basic catalyst. The experiment was considered safe and simple. Yunji read the instructions carefully. She reached for the first container. It had a bright red warning label that said corrosive material. Handle with extreme caution. Wait. Quilnix's translator screeched. You need safety equipment. Protective gloves, face shield, bodysuit. Yunji looked confused. For this? It's just diluted acid. Just? Quilnix's bubble trembled. That acid can dissolve flesh. Other students nearby stopped their work to watch. Their teaching assistant, an insect-like being named Rapthos, hurried over. His 6 legs clicked rapidly on the floor. Is there a problem? Rapthos asked. She was going to touch the acid with her bare hands, Quilnix said. Yunji picked up the container and checked the label again. This is hydrochloric acid at 5% concentration. It's weak. It won't hurt me. It is extremely dangerous, Rapthos insisted. His antennae were standing straight up, which Yunji had learned meant he was alarmed. But humans have acid in their stomachs, Yunji explained. Our stomach acid is stronger than this. Our bodies make it naturally to digest food. The lab went completely silent. Every student was staring now. You have acid inside you? A small purple student whispered. Right now? Yes, everyone does. All humans. Yunji was getting confused by their reactions. How do you digest food? With gentle enzymes, Rapthos said weakly. At neutral pH, not with acid that can melt metal. Oh. Yunji looked at the container in her hands. Should I wear gloves anyway? I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. Before anyone could answer, the container slipped. Yunji caught it, but a few drops of acid splashed onto her hand. Quilnix screamed. Several students ran for the door. Rapthos reached for the emergency alarm. Yunji calmly walked to the sink and rinsed her hand under water. It's fine, see? Just a little tingly. Her hand was completely unharmed, not even red. Rapthos stared at her hand like it was a magic trick. Impossible. That acid should have burned through your skin. Human skin is pretty thick, Yunji said, and our pH tolerance is high. We actually use stronger acids than this to clean our bathrooms at home. 3 more students fainted. The teaching assistant had to call for medical help. The class was canceled for the day. Yunji felt terrible about causing such a panic, but she honestly hadn't expected that reaction. That same afternoon, Daeho went to the recreation center. The station had a special gravity chamber where students could exercise. Most species needed lower gravity for their workouts, but the chamber could adjust to different levels. When Daeho arrived, he found a group of students already there. They were using what looked like heavy weights, grunting with effort. A lizard-like student was bench-pressing a bar that had several weight plates on it. "Good lift," Daeho called out, trying to be friendly. The lizard student set down the bar with a heavy thud. "Thank you. I am training for the strength competition. This is 1.2 standard gravity. Very difficult." Daeho looked at the gravity display. 1.2 standard. That was lighter than Earth. Back home, Earth's gravity was 1.8 standard. "That's impressive," Daeho said politely. "Do you mind if I use the chamber after you?" "Of course. But be careful. 1.2 is very intense. Perhaps start at 1.0? Daeho nodded and waited. When the lizard student finished, Daeho entered the chamber. The other students gathered outside to watch through the window. They seemed curious about what the Deathworlder would do. Daeho adjusted the gravity to 1.8 standard. Earth normal. The machine beeped a warning. "Caution, extreme gravity level, risk of injury." He pressed confirm. Outside he heard gasps. The gravity increased. Daeho felt the familiar weight of home settle onto his shoulders. It felt good, normal. He started with simple stretches, then moved to push-ups. Outside the window, the alien students were pointing and talking frantically. One was recording on a device. Daeho tried to ignore them and focus on his workout. He did 50 push-ups, then moved to the weights. He picked up what the lizard student had been struggling with. It felt light. He added more weight plates. Then more. Stop. Someone was banging on the window. Daeho looked up. The lizard student was there, his face pressed against the glass. "You will hurt yourself. That is too much weight." Daeho looked at the bar he was holding. By Earth standards, it wasn't that heavy, maybe 40 kilograms. He usually lifted twice that, but he didn't want to scare anyone. He set the weight down gently and walked out of the chamber. The moment he exited, 3 medical staff rushed toward him with scanners. "I'm fine," he said. "You were in 1.8 gravity for 15 minutes, one of the medics said. She looked like a blue bird. Most species would have broken bones by now. "That's normal gravity for Earth," Daeho explained. "You live in that?" "All the time?" The lizard student looked horrified. "Yes. Since birth. Our bones and muscles grow strong to handle it." The medics scanned him anyway. They found nothing wrong. No damage, no stress fractures. One medic said his bone density was impossibly high. Another said his muscle fiber composition defied standard biology. Daeho just wanted to finish his workout, but the recreation center was evacuated for safety reasons. He walked back to the dormitory, confused and a little frustrated. That evening, all 4 humans met in the cafeteria for dinner. The cafeteria was huge, with different sections for different species' dietary needs. There was a section for methane breathers, one for silicon-based life forms, and one for what the menu called carbon-based standard biology. Heejin picked up a tray and looked at the options. There were colorful pastes, clear liquids, and something that looked like foam. There was also a section labeled Emergency Rations, High Calorie. "What's that?" she asked the server, a robot with 6 arms. "Those are survival food blocks," the robot explained. "Very dense nutrition, only to be eaten in emergencies." "They are quite hard." Heejin picked one up. It looked like a brown brick. She took a bite. It was hard and crunchy like a granola bar, but denser. It tasted like nuts and salt. "This is good," she said. The robot's optical sensors focused on her. "You can bite through that?" "Yes." "It's crunchy." Heejin took another bite. A small alien at the next table turned to stare. "She's eating a ration block." "With her teeth. Like it's normal food." "What's wrong with that?" Heejin asked. "Those blocks are designed to last for years," the alien said. "They're compressed so hard that most species need to dissolve them in hot water first." "You just bit through it like it was soft bread?" Heejin looked at the block in her hand. "Oh, sorry, I didn't know. But the damage was done." Word spread quickly through the cafeteria. The human is eating ration blocks with her teeth. More students came to watch. Some took pictures. Jiho arrived at the table with his own tray. He sat down heavily and his chair creaked. He froze, then slowly relaxed when the chair held. Bad day? Yoonji asked. I leaned against a railing in Building C, Jiho said. It bent. There are engineers there now trying to figure out if it's a structural problem or if I'm just too heavy for their safety standards. I made 3 students faint in chemistry lab, Yoonji said. I got the recreation center evacuated, Taiho added. I'm apparently eating impossible food, Hyejin said, taking another bite of the ration block. They looked at each other and started laughing. It was absurd. They were just trying to live normally and everything they did caused chaos. Maybe we really are monsters, Yoonji said, but she was smiling. We're not monsters, Jiho said. We're just from Earth. This is going to take some getting used to. For everyone. Across the cafeteria, Rapthos was recording notes on his datapad. Next to him, Quilnix's bubble was shimmering with curiosity rather than fear. They don't mean to be frightening, Quilnix observed. No, Rapthos agreed. But they are. Wonderfully, terrifyingly frightening. I want to study them more. The humans finished their dinner, unaware that they had just become the most fascinating subjects in the entire station. 2 weeks had passed since the humans arrived at the Galactic Collegiate Institute. Things had started to settle into a routine. The other students were still cautious around them, but at least people weren't running away anymore. Jiho had learned to move carefully. Yoonji wore gloves in chemistry lab even though she didn't need them. Daeho exercised in the human dormitory instead of the recreation center. Hyejin ate regular food instead of ration blocks they were trying to fit in, trying to be normal. Then the alarm went off. Jiho was in his engineering class when the lights turned red. A loud siren echoed through the building. Professor Thalvik's crystalline body flashed with urgent colors. Emergency protocol, the professor announced. Everyone evacuate to the safe zones immediately. This is not a drill. Students jumped up from their seats. There was pushing and shoving as everyone tried to get to the door at once. Jiho stood up carefully, making sure not to bump into anyone. The crowd was moving too slowly. Someone was going to get hurt in this panic. Everyone calm down, he called out. His voice was deeper and louder than any of the alien voices. The students near him froze. Move in single file. No pushing. We have time. Something in his tone made them listen. Maybe it was instinct recognizing a predator's command. Maybe it was just surprise. Either way, the panic eased. The class filed out in order. In the hallway, more alarms were blaring. Automated voices spoke in multiple languages. Coolant leak in Sector 7. All personnel evacuate to designated safe zones. Repeat, coolant leak in Sector 7. Jiho pulled out his datapad and checked the station map. Sector 7 was 3 levels below them. It contained multiple research laboratories and the main environmental control systems. A coolant leak there could be serious. He found Yoonji, Daeho, and Hyejin in the gathering area. Hundreds of students were crowding into the large room. The air was filled with worried voices in dozens of languages. Do you know what's happening? Yoonji asked. Coolant leak in Sector 7, Jiho said. Daeho pulled up information on his datapad. The coolant system uses a chemical compound to keep the station temperature stable. If it leaks, it releases toxic gas. How toxic? Hyejin asked. She was already in medical mode, assessing potential casualties. The data says exposure causes immediate respiratory failure for most species. Even small amounts can be lethal. Professor Thalvik's appeared on a holographic display above the crowd. The professor's usually calm demeanor was gone. Its crystalline body was flickering with stressed colors. Students, please remain calm. We have a situation. A coolant line has ruptured in Sector 7. The leak is releasing chlorine-based gas into 3 laboratory rooms. The environmental systems are failing in that sector. Worried murmurs spread through the crowd. Are there students trapped? Someone called out. We believe 3 students were in Lab 7C when the leak began. They managed to seal themselves inside. But the air in that room will only last approximately 2 hours. We are working on a rescue plan. What about the research? Another voice asked. Professor Keln's experiment has been running for 6 months. If the environmental systems fail completely, all that data will be lost. The data is secondary to student safety, Professor Thalvik said firmly. However, yes, multiple important experiments are at risk. The environmental failure is also causing temperature increases and gravity fluctuations in the affected sector. Jiho listened carefully. Chlorine gas, temperature increases, gravity fluctuations. He looked at his friends. They were all thinking the same thing. What's the rescue plan? Jiho called out. The emergency response team is preparing hazmat suits. The suits will protect them from the gas, but they are stored in the main hub. It will take at least 40 minutes to deploy them and reach the trapped students. 40 minutes? Hyejin said. If those students are panicking, they'll use up their oxygen faster. They might not have 40 minutes. Professor Thalvix continued. The sector temperature has risen to 35 degrees Celsius and is increasing. The gravity is fluctuating between 0.8 and 1.5 standard. These conditions make any rescue extremely dangerous. Deho leaned close to the other humans. 35 degrees Celsius is about 95 Fahrenheit. That's a hot summer day. And the gravity fluctuations max out below Earth normal, Yoonji whispered. That's nothing to us. What about the chlorine gas? Hyejin asked. Chlorine gas is dangerous, Jiho said slowly. But it's heavier than air, it sinks. If we keep to high ground and cover our faces with wet cloth, we could move through it for a short time. Grandma taught me that. It's old war knowledge. They looked at each other. The same thought was forming in all their minds. We could go in, Yoonji said quietly. That's insane, Deho said. But he didn't say no, is it? Jiho asked. Everything they're afraid of is normal to us. The heat, the gravity, even the gas is something we could handle for a few minutes, long enough to get those students out. Hyejin was already calculating. We'd need to protect our eyes and breathing. Wet fabric over our mouths and noses. Move fast, stay high, get in and out. They'll never let us, Yoonji said. Professor Thalvix already thinks we're fragile. Other way around, Deho corrected. They think we're dangerous. Maybe it's time to show them why. Jiho made a decision. He pushed through the crowd toward the front where Professor Thalvix was coordinating with other faculty members. The other humans followed him. Professor, Jiho called out, the crystalline being turned. Jiho, you should be in the safe zone. We want to volunteer for the rescue. The entire group of faculty members went silent. They stared at the four humans. Absolutely not, Professor Thalvix said. You are students. This is far too dangerous. Professor, with respect, it's only dangerous to you, Yoonji said. She stepped forward. The chlorine gas? We can handle brief exposure with simple protection. The temperature? That's normal summer weather on Earth. The gravity? It's lighter than our home. We train for emergencies on Earth all the time, Hyejin added. Earthquakes, fires, floods. This is what we do. Another professor spoke up. This one looked like a walking tree. They're from Earth, perhaps they truly could withstand those conditions. It's too risky, Professor Thalvix insisted. If something happened to you, Earth would never forgive us. You are the first human exchange students. You're too valuable. Those students trapped in the lab are valuable too, Jiho said. And we can reach them now. Not in 40 minutes now. Professor Thalvix's body flickered rapidly, showing its internal struggle. Around them, other students had gathered to listen. Rapthos was there, his antennae twitching with agitation. Quilnix floated nearby, bubble shimmering. The human speaks truth, Rapthos said suddenly. I have studied them. Their biology is designed for hostile environments. They might actually survive this, might? Professor Thalvix said. That is not good enough. It's better odds than waiting, Deho said. What happens if those students run out of air? What happens if the environmental systems cascade and fail in other sectors? Every minute we debate is a minute lost. The professor was silent for a long moment. Its crystalline form had gone very still. Finally it spoke. If I allow this, you must follow exact instructions. You will maintain communication at all times. At the first sign of distress, you evacuate immediately, and you must sign waivers releasing the station from liability. Agreed, all four humans said together. This is madness, Professor Thalvix said quietly, but it was already pulling up documents on a data pad. Someone get them protective eyewear and communication devices. And water. They'll need water to wet fabric for breathing protection. As the faculty rushed to prepare equipment, the human students looked at each other. They weren't scared. They had grown up on a planet that tried to kill them in 1,000 different ways. This was just another day, another challenge. Jiho felt a strange calm settle over him. This was what they were made for. This was why Earth had shaped them to be strong, to be resilient, to be survivors. The galaxy was about to learn what Deathworlders could really do. The humans stood at the entrance to Sector 7. They wore protective goggles that sealed around their eyes. Each of them had tied a cloth soaked in water around their mouth and nose. Communication devices were clipped to their shirts. They looked more like they were going to clean a house than perform a dangerous rescue, Professor. Thalvix had activated every security camera in Sector 7. Hundreds of students crowded around viewing screens in the safe zones. Everyone wanted to watch. Some thought the humans would fail. Others hoped they would succeed. All of them were afraid of what might happen. Remember, Professor Thalvix said through their communication devices, the chlorine gas is heaviest near the floor. Stay high. The trapped students are in Lab 7C. The door is sealed, but the controls should still work. Are you ready? Ready, Jiho said. He looked at his friends. Yunji gave a thumbs up. Daeho nodded. Hijin checked her medical pack one more time. Opening Sector 7 now, the professor said. The door slid open with a hiss. Yellow-green gas drifted out in wisps. The air that came through was hot and smelled sharp like a swimming pool but stronger. Jiho took a breath through his wet cloth. It filtered the worst of the gas. His eyes stung a little, but the goggles protected them. Going in, he said. They stepped through the door together. It sealed behind them with a heavy clunk. The hallway was filled with hazy gas. Emergency lights cast everything in red. An alarm continued to blare. The temperature was immediately noticeable but not unbearable. Jiho had felt worse during summer in the city back home. Temperature reading shows 38 degrees now, Daeho said, checking his data pad. Going up slowly. That's about 100 Fahrenheit, Yunji said. Hot but manageable. Let's move. They moved down the hallway, staying near the ceiling side where the gas was thinner. The gravity suddenly shifted, becoming heavier. Jiho felt his weight increase. It was approaching Earth normal now. Gravity at 1.6, Daeho reported. Feels like home. Through their communication devices, they could hear gasps from the watching aliens. One voice said, "They're not even slowing down." The hallway split into 3 directions. According to the map, Lab 7C was to the left. But Jiho noticed something. There's smoke coming from the right corridor, he said. That's where the environmental controls are. Should we check it? Yunji asked. The students first, Hijin said firmly. Then we worry about the systems. They turned left. The gas was thicker here. Jiho could taste it even through the wet cloth, sharp and bitter. His throat felt scratchy. But it wasn't choking him. Not yet. Lab 7C's door came into view. Through the small window, they could see 3 small aliens huddled together. One looked like a purple rabbit. Another was a tiny blue creature no bigger than a child. The third was covered in soft white fur. Jiho knocked on the door. The aliens inside jumped in fear. Then they saw the humans and their eyes went wide. We're here to help, Jiho called out. His voice was muffled by the cloth. We're going to open the door. No, one of the aliens cried. The gas will come in. We'll be fast, Hijin said. I'm a medical student, trust me. When this door opens, you run straight down the hallway to the left. Don't stop. Can you do that? The aliens looked at each other. They were terrified, but they nodded. Yunji moved to the door controls. The panel was damaged, sparking with broken wires. The electronics are fried. We'll have to do this manually. There was an emergency lever, but it was stuck. Yunji pulled. Nothing happened. Daeho joined her. Together they pulled, but the lever didn't move. It's welded shut from the heat, Daeho said. We need more force. Jiho examined the door. It was a standard sliding door set in tracks. If they couldn't use the lever, maybe they could just force the door itself. He wedged his fingers into the tiny gap between the door and the frame. What are you doing? Professor Thalvix's voice came through the communicator. Opening it, Jiho said. He began to pull. The door didn't move. He pulled harder, muscles straining. The door creaked. Metal groaned. Inside the lab, the 3 aliens backed away in fear. Yunji saw what he was trying to do. She grabbed the other side of the door. On 3. 1, 2, 3. They pulled together. The door shuddered, then slowly began to slide open. The metal tracks bent under the force. On the viewing screens across the station, aliens watched in shock as 2 humans physically pried open a sealed door. The door opened enough for the small aliens to fit through. Go, now! Hijin shouted. The 3 aliens ran. They were fast, driven by panic. They disappeared down the hallway toward the exit. Hyejin ran after them to make sure they made it safely. 3 students secured, Hyejin reported after a minute. They're out and being checked by medical. Some gas exposure, but they'll be fine. Excellent, Professor Thalvik said. Now get out of there. All of you immediately. Wait, Deho said. The environmental controls. If we can shut down the leak, we can save the other labs too. It's too dangerous, the professor said. You've done enough. Jiho looked at Yoonji and Daiho. They had come this far. The students were safe, but the research, the experiments, the work of dozens of scientists was still at risk. We're already here, Yoonji said. We're already exposed to the gas. Let us try. There was a pause. Then of 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes, then you evacuate no matter what. They ran down the right corridor toward the environmental controls. The gas was so thick here it looked like fog. The heat was intense. Sweat poured down Jiho's face. His wet cloth was getting dry. He dunked it in his water bottle again. The control room door was open. Inside, smoke billowed from damaged equipment. The main coolant pipe had cracked. Yellow-green gas poured from the break like a waterfall. There's the problem, Deho said. He pulled up a schematic on his datapad. If we close the emergency shutoff valve, it will stop the leak. But the valve is on the other side of that gas stream. I'll go, Jiho said. The gas is too thick there, Yoonji protested. Then I'll hold my breath. Jiho took several deep breaths, filling his lungs. Then he pulled the cloth away from his face, took one last breath, and ran. He plunged through the stream of gas. It was like running through cold smoke. His eyes burned even behind the goggles, but he could see the valve, red and obvious, on the wall. He grabbed the wheel and turned it. It was stuck. He turned harder. The wheel began to move slowly. His lungs were starting to burn. He needed air. But he kept turning. The wheel rotated once, twice, 3 times. The gas flow began to slow. His vision was getting spotty. He finished the 4th rotation and the gas stopped. Then he ran back through where the stream had been. Yoonji caught him as he stumbled out. Breathe, she said, pressing his wet cloth back over his face. He gasped, pulling in air through the filter. It tasted like chemicals, but it was air. His head cleared after a few breaths. Leak stopped, Deho reported. The system is stabilizing. Temperature is already dropping. Get out now, Professor Thalvik ordered. The gravity is fluctuating again. They felt it immediately. The gravity dropped to nearly 0, then spiked to 1.7. Jiho's stomach lurched. But they were used to changes. They ran down the hallway, adapting to each shift. When they reached the exit, Hyejin was waiting. The door opened and they stumbled through into clean air. Jiho pulled off his goggles and cloth. He took deep breaths of normal air. It had never tasted so good. Medical staff swarmed them immediately, scanning them with devices. The humans were coughing and their eyes were red, but they were basically fine. Impossible, one medic kept saying. You were exposed for almost 20 minutes. You should be dead. We're from Earth, Yoonji said between coughs. We're tougher than we look. On the viewing screens, they could see Sector 7. The gas was clearing as the ventilation systems worked. The temperature was dropping back to normal. The trapped labs were saved. All around them, alien students stared. Not with fear anymore. With awe, Rapthos approached slowly. His antennae were lowered in a gesture of respect. You saved them. You went into death and brought them back. It wasn't death, Jiho said. It was just a chemical leak. We've dealt with worse on Earth. That's the point, Quilnick said, floating over. You have dealt with worse. Your entire planet is worse, and it made you into this. Into what? Daiho asked. Heroes, Rapthos said simply. The humans didn't know what to say to that. The medical bay was busy. The 3 rescued aliens were being treated for gas exposure. They would recover fully, the doctors said, though they would need a few days of rest. The humans sat on examination tables while medics ran scan after scan. Your lungs are irritated but clearing rapidly, the bird-like medic said, examining Jiho's results. Your cellular recovery rate is remarkable. By tomorrow, you'll show no signs of exposure. That's good, Jiho said. His throat was still sore, but he could already feel it getting better. No, you don't understand. This is impossible. Any other species would need weeks to recover from that level of exposure. Some would have permanent damage. The medic looked at him with something like wonder. What are you? We're human, Jiho said simply. Professor Thalvik entered the medical bay. The crystalline professor's body was glowing softly, a sign of calm. How are they? They'll be fine, the medic reported. Better than fine. They're already recovering. The professor approached the humans. I owe you an apology. And thanks. You saved 3 lives today. Anyone would have done the same, Yunji said. No, Professor Thalvik said firmly. No one else could have done the same. That's the point. We would have needed suits, equipment, time. You needed wet cloth and courage. I understand now why Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Your planet doesn't just allow life. It forges life into something stronger. Earth is just home, Hyejin said softly. We don't think of it as a death world. It's where we're from, where we belong. Of course, the professor said. But now I understand something important. The galaxy needs Deathworlders. We have built our civilization on peace and safety. We have forgotten what it means to face danger. You remember. You carry that knowledge in your very bones. The next day, the humans returned to classes. But everything had changed. When Jiho walked down the hallway, students didn't move away in fear. They moved aside in respect. Some even nodded to him. In chemistry lab, Yunji no longer had to wear unnecessary gloves. Her lab partners asked her questions about Earth's chemistry, about the acids and bases humans encountered naturally. Quilnick specifically requested to be her permanent partner. I want to learn from you, Quilnick said. Not just chemistry, but how to be brave when things are dangerous, how to stay calm in a crisis. I'm not special, Yunji protested. You are, Quilnick insisted. All of you are, and I think that's wonderful. Daeho found that the Recreation Center had installed a new section. It was labeled High Gravity Training and could go up to 2.0 standard. A dozen alien students were attempting to exercise there, struggling in the intense weight. The lizard student who Daeho had met before waved to him. We wanted to understand. To feel what you feel every day. It's so hard. Daeho helped them adjust their techniques, showing them how to move efficiently under heavy gravity. They couldn't match Earth levels yet, but they were trying. They wanted to be stronger. Hyejin was approached by the medical department. They wanted her to give a lecture series on human biology and emergency medicine from a death world perspective. She agreed, and her first lecture was packed. Students took notes frantically as she explained how humans dealt with trauma, how their bodies healed, how their psychology helped them survive. Fear is normal, she told the class, but we don't let it control us. We feel the fear, acknowledge it, and then we do what needs to be done anyway. That's not bravery. That's just living on Earth. Jiho was called to a special meeting with the station administration. He worried he was in trouble. Instead, they offered him a position. We want to create an emergency response team for situations like the Sector 7 incident, the administrator explained. She was a tall, elegant being covered in silver scales. Standard security can't handle extreme conditions, but Deathworlders can. Would you and your friends be willing to be on call for emergencies? We're students, Jiho said. We came here to learn, and you will learn, the administrator assured him. But you would also be available for situations that require your unique abilities. You would be paid, of course, and you would receive advanced training in station systems. Jiho thought about it. He looked at the other humans. They had gathered outside the office waiting for him. When he told them about the offer, they didn't hesitate. We'll do it, Yunji said. Together, Daeho added. It's the right thing, Hyejin agreed. So they became the station's first Deathworlder emergency team. It wasn't official, and they didn't wear uniforms, but everyone knew. If something went wrong, if something dangerous happened, the humans would handle it. Weeks passed, then months. The humans settled into their role as both students and guardians. They learned alongside their alien classmates, but they also protected them when needed. A fire in the dormitories? The humans went in and carried out trapped students. A radiation leak in the science building? The humans sealed it while wearing minimal protection. A structural failure in the observation dome? The humans held the broken supports while repairs were made. Each incident taught the galaxy something new about Deathworlders, about humans, about Earth. One evening, Rapthos gave a presentation to the xenobiology class. He had spent months studying the humans, documenting everything about them. His presentation was titled, Deathworld Adaptation: How Extreme Environments Create Extraordinary Life. Earth is hostile in ways we can barely imagine, Rapthos explained to the class. Extreme gravity, corrosive atmosphere, wild temperature swings, aggressive predators, natural disasters. Any one of these factors would prevent most life from evolving. But Earth has all of them, and humanity evolved anyway. He showed images of Earth, storms that could destroy cities, earthquakes that split the ground, volcanoes that buried entire regions, mountains so high the air was too thin to breathe, oceans so deep that the pressure would crush most beings. Humans are not stronger because they choose to be, Rapthos continued. They are stronger because they had to be. Their bodies are dense and powerful because Earth's gravity demanded it. Their chemical tolerance is high because Earth's environment required it. Their fear response is managed because constant danger taught them to control it. He showed video of the Sector 7 rescue. The class watched in silence as the humans calmly walked through conditions that would kill most species. This is what a death world creates, Rapthos said. Not monsters. Not killers. But survivors who are so capable, so resilient that they can walk through our worst nightmares and call it a bit uncomfortable. The class was quiet when he finished. Then slowly they began to applaud. It started with one student and spread until the entire class was making their species equivalent of appreciation. Some clapped, some hummed, some flashed colors, but all of them were showing respect. In the back of the classroom, Jiho watched with the other humans. He felt strange, proud but also humble. They were just being themselves. They hadn't asked to be special. After class, a first-year student approached them. She was small and green with large eyes that seemed to take up half her face. "Are you really from Earth?" she asked shyly. "Yes," Yoonji said gently. "Is it really so dangerous there?" "Sometimes," Yoonji admitted. "But it's also beautiful. And it's home." "I want to visit someday," the student said. "If I can. If it's safe," Hyejin smiled. "It's as safe as you make it. Earth teaches you to be careful, to be aware, but it's not trying to kill you. It's just being Earth." "That's what I want to learn," the student said. "How to be strong like you. How to not be afraid." "We're afraid all the time," Daeho said. "We just don't let it stop us." The student looked surprised. "Really?" "Really," Jiho confirmed. "Being from a death world doesn't mean you don't feel fear. It means you know fear is normal, and you work with it instead of against it." The student thought about this. Then she bowed, a gesture of thanks in her culture. "I understand. Thank you." As she walked away, more students approached. They wanted to know about Earth, about survival, about courage. The humans answered their questions patiently, explaining that they weren't heroes. They were just humans doing what humans do. But the alien students saw something else. They saw what they wanted to become. Not physically stronger, perhaps. Not all species could adapt to high gravity or corrosive atmospheres. But mentally stronger, emotionally resilient, capable in the face of danger. The humans had brought something to the Galactic Collegiate Institute that had been missing. Not just strength, but the understanding that safety came from preparation, from training, from facing your fears rather than hiding from them. That night, Jiho stood at the viewing window in the human dormitory. He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, home, the death world that made them who they were. "Miss it?" Yoonji asked, coming to stand beside him. "Sometimes," Jiho admitted, "but we're doing good here. We're showing them that Deathworlders aren't something to fear. We're showing them what Earth taught us," Yoonji said. "That life is precious because it's fragile. That strength comes from facing challenges, that the hardest environments create the most beautiful things." "That's very poetic," Daeho said, joining them. "It's true, though," Hyejin added. She was there too, the four of them together as always. Earth made us strong not to hurt others, but to protect them. That's what we're doing here. They stood together, 4 humans from a death world, now guardians of a